Now, Peter Manso's book is different. He was the guy who wrote for Playboy, but he also did a biography on Marlon Brando, but it's different than Marlon Brando's Songs My Mother Never Taught Me, which was also a pretty good book. So why am I talking about Marlon? Because I got a history at the Actors Studio. Okay, everybody's got a thing. Jordan the Lion has a history with Shelley Winters. Jordan the Lion also had Candyland Riots, where he was a rock star or whatever. He did this stuff in L.A. He was, almost famous, whatever. Then he now is famous, and he met Shelley. So Shelley was he was under the wing of Shelley Winters, and so she probably gave him some studio stuff. That's why his show's so good. Now, Diane, also being Stella Adler, I don't know who Shelley. Shelley was Actors Studio, I think. I would probably say Strasberg, because she was interviewed at the Actors Studio. It was a very good interview. But that was Shelley. And so Jordan is kind of that thing, because he had a relationship with Jordan, and that's why I'm a big fan of Jordan the Lion. And always will be, probably. I think Jordan's stuff is great. And I think Adam is super talented and has invented a lot of things that are helping people go out there and really do some cool vlogs, as in VLOG, as in video log. But I do sometimes have said in the past that Alfred Hitchcock would be proud. I also say that Fellini would be amazed. And I also say that Martin Scorsese would be perplexed. Regardless, I think what we're doing is a new thing. It's a new movement. And I think it's a show, because I sometimes find it interesting to watch a series of vloggers. For example, Adam the Woo, Jordan the Lion, sometimes Bama Mike. And as Adam's career progressed, he ran into Bama Mike, and they knew each other. You see? So this is kind of a community thing. It's kind of a community show. Imagine if Seinfeld was communicating with 4 or 5 other different shows on different networks, and they all kind of blended in together. And it's all over the United States or nation. So big actors that have influenced me, of course, Harvey Keitel. You got Marlon Brando, Robert De Niro, Pacino. You got all those greats. Dustin Hoffman, of course. All of them have influenced my life as a person, and then also as a student of the craft, and also probably maybe as a vlogger, whether I like it or not. Personally, from the studio, I only studied under Ellen Burstyn and Parson. She won an Oscar for Bonnie and Clyde. So Parsons helped me with some stuff. And I observed. I was only observed. I was on the second floor. I never have become a member of the Actors Studio, but I am a candidate of the Actors Studio Drama School, okay, which is the MFA program. So I have a connection, but I'm not a diehard member that shows up like Elia Kazan or Edward Albee or Harvey Keitel or Pacino. I mean, those guys, they basically run the Actors Studio. So we get our information from them. They talk to us, just like Lee Strasberg talked to them. Okay, same with De Niro, Baldwin. Baldwin's been a part of the hosting and a lot of other hosts, right? They have guest hosts. It used to be Lipton. Yes, I worked side by side with James Lipton. He ran a studio in New York called Beetlegeist or Beetlejuice, however you want to say it. Okay, I sat next to Lipton as he cut a show, and he used mostly beta VHS. The shows were way much longer, and I am on several of the episodes. Bradley Cooper actually got to ask De Niro a question, which raised De Niro's eyebrows. Like, good question, right? And that got De Niro's, it was a brilliant question. It was a question about Awakenings, which was one of my favorite De Niro's, about how he did this thing. It was like a gesture. Was it psychological or was it planned? And it was a good question, and that got him forward. And that made him a star. He asked one question, and now Bradley Cooper lives in a big mansion. Okay. So, I'm also big fans of P.T. Anderson. I'm big fans. I like Cooper too. He's fine. They're all real talented. They're all gifted. Now, I may have said some stuff, or some stuff I leaked on Facebook and stuff. That's because sometimes I get drained and I do this like method thing, and who knows? Okay. So what I'm trying to say basically is there's a lot of people behind the Actors Studio, and Brando had a weird kind of relationship with the studio. He did work with Strasberg, but he was more of an Adler student. Now, who else? Benicio del Toro I talked to, who was also an Adler student. Stella was a little different. she didn't think it had to do with words. That's not why we go to the theater. We're looking at behavior. We're looking at something beyond that, beyond word. It's something that's different. The mysterious reason why we go to the theater, why we look at actors. It wasn't about the words. She was like, no, it's not about the words. That's why sometimes we don't hear Brando say everything, or maybe not, or maybe so. Mark Ruffalo also studied with Stella Adler, which is very amazing. And I found that out myself about Mark Ruffalo, because I was watching some Stella Adler stuff, and all of a sudden I saw Mark Ruffalo in the on the stage with Stella Adler talking to him, doing a Shakespeare piece, and she wanted to know. She was really weird about costumes, and she was really strict about costumes, and she wanted to know where he got the costumes. And Mark Ruffalo looks up in the light and says, "I stole them," and kind of smiled. This guy that played the Hulk. So what that means is that, I don't know what it meant, but it was Shakespeare costumes. It was probably budgeting. But what I'm saying is that Stella Adler worked with them a little bit differently. Strasberg focused more on emotional recall and sense memory. Sense memory is also another big thing that I probably didn't even talk about the other day. Why I'm mentioning this is because I'm giving kind of bio and a lowdown of things that I talk about. Some people like Disney World. I like Disney World too. But I'm real actor-y talk. I've been all my life. I mean, almost all, not all my life. I used to, when I was real little, I would make Star Wars noises, and Luke Skywalker was my hero, and I'd like the I'd do that. So my dad would have me do it in front of his friends and stuff, because I did this like laser noise, like beep 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 beep. As a kid, I could call turkey at like a high pitched voice, and I could call turkey, and the turkey would actually come from the fields, and my dad would shoot them. He'd have me sit down. It was one of my first acting jobs. He had me sit down on a log, and he said, "Call turkey," while he had the shotgun. So of course I did a good job, and the turkeys would come up and they'd get shot. Usually hens. So I did this, and so I did this thing. My grandma kind of taught me. Grandma taught me to play piano. So I had this history of performances in the house, and we would like, my grandfather would watch like Robert Redford movies. And actually the first time I ever saw a David Lynch movie was with my grandma, because she was serving me dumplings and the Elephant Man was on. I said, "What is this? It's making my stomach ill." It was the Elephant Man, and that's when I started, realizing later on that I had seen David Lynch his movie at a young age. I was at the table. I remember exactly looking over and seeing the Elephant Man, because we had cable. I think Bradley Cooper, they had cable too. He saw like Deer Hunter and stuff. We saw these like really harsh films they showed on cable. That kind of led us in to the Actor Studio, and eventually, because of Bravo being a cable network, we saw Actor Studio on there and we knew where to go. Now, you got to realize, I found out about the Actor Studio by going to a library, which was Central Library in Fort Worth. And I picked up a book called Method Actors, and I started reading, and I thought this was an interesting choice of a school. And later I met a playwright friend named Rob in high school, who went to the same high school as Taylor Sheridan, who was there pretty much the same time we were. We didn't know him, but we were part of the creative writing class. And Taylor went off to be a movie star and then a screenplay writer. I think Rob does like a lot of plays. He writes. I've been in several of his plays. He's a great friend and a true companion, dedicated writer guy that we've shared emails and plays and ideas for over 10 years, maybe more. You could say maybe 15, maybe 20 years, spanning over maybe 2 decades more. I'm seriously over a decade. We've done several works together, all in Fort Worth, at different theaters, all kinds of stuff. We go way back. We've even studied mime together. So yes, I've also studied with Marcel Marceau's people. I've got a long list of people that I've studied with, because I wanted to make sure that when I was younger and I had some time on my hands, that I would learn as much as I could so I'd be well prepared. Now, Marcel Marceau, he worked with the French Resistance. He helped overthrow the Nazis, but he also created a style of mime that's very important, not to be neglected. I think Stella Adler, I think some of her early work, she physicalized things and stuff like that, but mime is a whole different story. So I had done 2 or 3 mime shows in my life. But what I value is, I do value the theater, and I do value film and cinema. Now, the directors I've worked with is Frank Darabont, because he directed me in The Majestic, but he also, like I said, did Shawshank Redemption, a bunch of other movies, and I did work with Frank Darabont. I've worked with Drake Dormus, who did Like Crazy, but not on that picture. I did a student film with him called The Bum, which I played a pizza delivery driver named Donovan. Also, Drake Dormus directed me in a theater stage. It's kind of a bio. In Orange County, in Santa Ana, where I worked for a while there. And I played Donovan again, which is a delivery guy, in a play called House Divided. that comes in and helps this young kid out, kind of a Bill Murray kind of character, kind of craziness. So we did that for a while. Then I worked side by side with Jim Carrey in the Majestics, just doing background. And also I was on set with Dustin Hoffman in Moonlight Mile, which is where I first was introduced or met or saw in the room Jake Gyllenhaal work. I mean, I got to watch Jake Gyllenhaal work. I'd always be watching the actors. I watched the actors so much that I would miss the camera, and the director would have to go back and, no, you got to walk in front of the camera. So I would be like, oh, okay. And I was just sitting there watching Dustin Hoffman and Jake Gyllenhaal the entire time. Because I wanted to learn. That's about 10 minutes. That's who I am. Sorry. You know, I'm not necessarily Tom Cruise, but I'm something. And I got my own show. The Please Subscribe show developed kind of on its own, coming out of just B-roll. And also an indie film I was working with called The Projectionist with a few actors out in Dallas. And then it developed into another film called The Filmmakers. Linda got thrown in the mix because we were doing improv stuff. And I met her and I thought she was good with all kinds of things, but especially improv and just being funny, a good person. And I just thought she was an interesting, unique person. And I thought, let's give it a try. So we threw up the first one, The Filmmakers, which got 6,500 views, which is about a beach ball and a hurricane kind of thing. So anyway, we're real excited. Now, I know you're busy. You like Buc-ee's. There's other vloggers that got thousands and thousands and thousands of hundreds of thousands of, subscribers. And we're at our early stages of development. So it would be a certain shock, but they're all welcome. Like I said, all vloggers are welcome, no matter what. No matter what they say in live stream, whatever they say on whatever, they're always welcome. Now, here's some personal dreams that I have. I'm a big fan of The Shining. And I think it's a really cool film, and a lot has been done with The Shining. And I always cast a film in my head if I think I'm going to remake it. Kind of like Gus Van Sant made Psycho. And I've been thinking, like, Joaquin Phoenix is like a really talented person, and he has this charm. But, Jack Torrance, who Jack Nicholson played back when Stanley Kubrick directed it, and they did it out in Oregon. Once may I take a break. In Oregon, they directed The Shining, Stanley Kubrick's people, they did The Shining. I thought it was a great film. My idea was to do it frame by frame, shot by shot, and use everything exactly the same, almost as if you were trying to completely do the same exact film, just like Gus Van Sant did with Psycho, only he used more color or something like that. There was something he did different. And also the acting was a little bit more extreme. But I thought about sticking to everything almost exactly, almost like creating a reproduction. Kind of like if you think of Roma, where he reproduced memories, right? This would be like shot by shot, The Shining, exactly the same. Joaquin was something that I thought the Phoenixes were talented, and Joaquin Phoenix would be like perfect. Ella Fanning, because Shelley Duvall's character, which is Wendy, not gonna hurt you, Wendy, and the bat and all that. So I picture kind of Ella Fanning in that kind of situation. Now, the young kid, that can be really anybody, but that's an important role. Samuel L. Jackson for the role of the caretaker that goes, I think he goes to Florida, he goes out and he has to come back. Is the bald-headed black dude that's in the original with Stanley Kubrick. I thought Samuel L. Jackson or Morgan Freeman, but I went more with Samuel L. Jackson, taking more of a risk, because it's a very vocal kind of, the voice is something, Morgan Freeman's got that voice. So it's kind of a tie-up between those two. But Morgan's a little older, and Samuel's got a lot of character. And I've met Samuel. It's a very still role. It'd be good for Samuel. But I think this is something, a dream that has come about. And I have not read the book The Shining. But I know that Kubrick read books about commercialism and all this weird stuff when he was doing The Shining. All this weird stuff was going on. He used real salt when they were in the maze. They were running on real salt, all this stuff. So this is a personal dream that I have. Whether it comes true, I don't know. Whether I start working on The Shining script and reading the book, looking at the original Stanley Kubrick script, maybe using that, seeing what there's to do, maybe doing a take on it, I don't know. But anyway, that's some of the things that I like. I do original screenplays, I have original ideas, and I've attempted many. I've done a series called Once in a Lifetime series with my playwright friend Rob, which is From Now Until Morning, the first one, The Way of Man, the second one, which we did on the West 7th Street Bridge, and that side, which we did in Irving at a train station. The guy named Corbin. It's Corbin Thorpe, who was an editor out in Dallas Arts Institute. We all worked together. Well, Rob got busy, and it was way out in Irving. But I took over the role, had to do the role myself. And my friend Danny, who was the brother of Johnny Whitworth. So Johnny Whitworth, who was in Empire Records, he played AJ. His brother is Danny, who's one of my best friends in college. And he helped me do a little bit of it. It was kind of an evangelical piece called That Side. He was the cameraman in that. Regardless, we've done a lot. But I like the idea also of just doing a film and just writing along the way and talking to the actors and meeting like in a group and talking to everybody and finding out what will work with the story, what we need to talk about, and find it all together and then start writing. And then work on it over a period of months until it's ready, rehearsing and writing. I did a play like that in college called Project 414. Everybody loved it. It was in college and it was great. We did all these comic pieces, all this stuff. We found it as we kind of moved along through it as an ensemble. It was like written kind of by the actors and ensemble. I heard Jaws was kind of like that when Spielberg was doing it, Robert Shaw, but I don't know for sure if that's a true story. But I like the idea of an ensemble writing a piece and working together. That is it. So I just wanted to say that. Thank you. Vlog continuing, but that's about 16 minutes or so. All right, there it is, Dallas. It's about 1.3 million or so people. RoboCop lived there. He shot up the bad guys. He said, I don't know what he said. What did RoboCop say? Peter Weller would know. Peter Weller was a trumpet player at UNT. What did RoboCop say? Protect and serve. Or something. Have a good day. You know, that kind of thing. I don't know what he said. He said something. He said, I'm RoboCop. Put down your weapon, take 2 steps back kind of thing. RoboCop. Okay, anyway. It was filmed there. So was Dallas, the TV show. You see JR? That was the most... Everyone freaked out when JR got shot. It jammed up the television rays. They couldn't even broadcast TV for a while because everybody turned the TV on at the same time. Kind of like when they have a freeze and everybody's heater kind of, yeah, everybody flipped out about JR. It was the most attractive attention thing on television that got everybody's attention. People like missed work and stuff to figure it out. It really happened. It was really crazy. They were really attached to the Dallas show. We're talking nationwide. It was shot in Dallas. All kinds of stuff. Oh, Texas Walker Ranger. I've got friends that were in Texas Walker Ranger that was shot out in Dallas. One of my acting coaches, Jerry Russell, did one episode. So was my other friends. I think Eddie was on Texas. He did something where they say Real Cash Money or something. It played this guy. There's some kind of crazy guy at a convenience store or something. And Texas Walker Ranger was, everybody. All my friends would get on Texas Walker Ranger. I never got on it. I'm trying to think what I got on. I got to audition for an Olive Garden commercial. I did have a agent called Peggy Stone. I don't even know where she's at, but she was trying to quit smoking when I met her. She was chewing on Nicka gum. She was like this. What's her name? Your name's Cole Spivey? She's there chewing on Nicka gum. I said, what do you want me to do? She said, I want you to read for this Olive Garden commercial. I said, okay. All the writers were on strike it was in the 1999, 98 or something like that. I said, okay. So I read for they didn't even give me the commercial. There's a long list of people that read for the Olive Garden commercial. Anyway, It's like Elia Kazan stuff. Peggy, yeah, she didn't call me out for a lot. I had to get managers out in L.A. I got called out. I got on set in Hollywood, but I had to get managers. I worked with Jack Nicholson's Marathon Management. It's hard to get an agent in L.A. It's hard. I'm trying to think what I must have done something in Dallas. Yeah, I did a horror film. I did a horror film when I came back from the studio called the Matchstick Game. It's called the Matchstick Game. I played a character named Trent. Oh man, don't know. They say it's still around. That it's like in someone's closet or something. It still hasn't been put together or whatever. That was when I first came back from the studio. That's what the first thing they gave me. When I went to, I'd go to Stage. There's a place in Dallas called Stage, where you go and you can post things, you can rehearse, you can get backstage stuff, you can get audition information. Daniel and Natalie and Ryan, all of us would meet there and stuff. It's a meeting place for actors. It's called Stage. It's out in Dallas. So I was thinking, yeah, Matchstick Game. That's actually where I met Natalie on set. And so it was an indie film. They used VHS. It was a black director, and they filmed it out in it was like off a dock in this like boathouse that was over water. Remember one night we filmed it, the moon was doing something really weird in the air. I don't know if he got any of that. But the director was constantly kind of working on the script and watching other horror films and trying to get it all together. It was like their third or fourth attempt, at least their third attempt at the horror film. So they had done it in a few other times together as a group. They also would meet out these horror film directors or these people that were making this horror film called The Matchstick Game. They would meet out in Arlington at this house. And at the time, I didn't have a car. I had a mountain bike. I had a bicycle. So when I came back from New York, I had to get everywhere on a bicycle, unless my mom let me have her car for the day, or she would have to haul me around. But I did a lot of substitute teaching on that bicycle, and I would go all around riding a bicycle. I even got hit by a car one time. Luckily, I just got thrown off the bike, and it was like the guy went running off. I only hit the back tire, but it still caused me to fall off the bike. And I kind of hurt my hands a little bit, got them scraped up. But that was when I was doing the Matchstick Game. And I played Trent. And they all had monologues. So it was all about these characters that were sitting around. They were doing like a seance kind of thing. It's about demonic possession. And one of their friends gets possessed by a demon named Golian, which is another way of spelling legion. Golian was the name. And so it was like, the thing in Rosemary's Baby, the thing where they switch the letters around. So she gets possessed while we're all sitting around, and then she basically kills everyone. And we're all like victims of her. And she's kind of like this cheerleader chick, and we all have these stories about sins of her past. My sin was, you have to see it if they ever release it. I don't want to give it away everything. But everybody had their own personal sin that they were confessing. They had to confess around this pentagram. And when they confessed, it would go to the next character, and then that character would have a story about a secret that they had to tell. It had to do, they had matches. They light these candles, and they had to tell a story of something. Then it got to the final cheerleader chick, and all of a sudden, she gets possessed, and we're like, what? And Golian appears, and she starts speaking like the Exorcist kind of thing, but we're like in the same room. And there was some kind of drug message too. I think my character was like involved in something. It was all very strange movie, because he was kind of splitting the script and continuing on. Cannot recall the name of the directors. Never saw the final cut. Natalie spoke with me when we were on the set, when we were developing The Projectionist, which I wrote. And Natalie had come back. She had already went to New York, worked with Ethan Hawke on Sinister, and she had told me that film was still floating around, that it was like in a closet or something. I said, I want to see it. What's going on? One of the agreements were that if we were going to work on it, we were not only going to participate and memorize and be part of it, but we were also going to be able to see it. So don't know. It's called the Matchstick Game, and they're waiting. So we don't know where any of those people are. I heard the director ran off to Europe, and then there was an assistant director, his bald-headed guy. But they did have a space, a studio space that they did work with, and they did have equipment for editing, mostly on VHS or beta. I don't know what they used, really. They were going to do a whole series of things to it in development. So it's been 2003, 13, almost 20 years. About 19 years. I want to find that thing. I want to find the Matchstick Game. I want to see where it went. It's a film floating around somewhere.